Hey makeup friends, and welcome to another week of work makeup. Last week I'd put up a poll asking which brands you wanted to see featured this week, and we had a tie between Natasha Denona and Nomad, so I have incorporated palettes from both of those brands this week. And then on day 4, you will see that I also brought in a Huda Beauty palette because I wanted to test it out for a review video that I did, but we will get to that when we get to day 4. This obviously is day 1. This was Monday. I had 2 in-person appointments on the calendar this day, neither of which actually went forward. So I got sick for one of them and I gave it to my partner to do. And then my client in the morning for her in-person appointment, she was sick. So she called in and just did it by phone. So I recovered very quickly. It was just like, I've had a bit of a gastro issue this week. I'm not sure what's going on. I've had very little in the way of an appetite. And on Monday, I just got hit with like a wave of nausea in the afternoon, just out of nowhere. Didn't end up being actually sick, but I just felt awful. And I didn't want to potentially spread that around the office or spread that to the person I was supposed to be meeting with. So I left early that day. Nonetheless, here we are. I think the Glam palette from Natasha Denona just might be my favorite of hers. This one or Retro, to be honest. Retro gets me with those purpley tones, but this palette here, it's just such a workhorse. Any neutral look you want, you can pretty much get out of this palette, and I don't have any issues with the blendability of the mattes, with how the shimmers perform, any of that kind of thing. So really enjoy this one. And then you will see on day 3, I think I brought in the mini Glam, which I'm quite pleased to see isn't an exact replica of shades from the bigger palette. So I do like when she does that, because sometimes, especially with this newest palette from Natasha Denona, the Love Face palette, there looks to be an awful lot of overlap between the shadows that are in there and the shadows that exist in the Love palette, in the mini Love palette, and also in the Retro palette. So that one is going to be a hard pass for me as well. I despise the Natasha Denona cream blush formula. I can't even really call it a cream. I'm not entirely sure what that formula is, like putty. I'm not sure, but I don't get along with it. I don't enjoy it. So I will not be purchasing that palette, as pretty as it is. I keep seeing it on the Sephora What's New page or whatever they call it. And it sucks me in every time. And then I'm like, I don't want this and I don't need this. So very glad that I have decided not to pick it up, and I'm holding firm. All right. So what else can I say about Monday? Oh, it was a Monday. What can I say? I found out that our newest associate, her grandmother had passed away over the course of the weekend, which was awful. And the poor thing, she kept apologizing that she was going to be missing work. And I have to think that's because other firms that are out there, and certainly the way they talk about firms in law schools, FYI, if you're new, I own a law firm there. I always forget to put that at the beginning of these videos. Anyways, I can only imagine that it's because there's a lot of firms that value docketed hours over anything else. Like, they view their associates as dollar signs, basically, as a means to make money. They don't really view them as people. And that is definitely not the firm culture that we have. So I was reassuring her, like, take the time that you need. If there's anything that we can do to help, let us know. Like, it's honestly, like, that's one of the great things about owning my own business, is that life happens and we can accommodate that. And life happens for me. Like I said, I left early this day because I just got hit out of nowhere with nausea. So I can do that without other people like looking at me and writing down when I left and when I came in. Fun fact, that happened at a firm I used to work at. One of the law clerks took it upon herself. There's my outfit of the day. I did a gray moment. Anyways, one of the law clerks took it upon herself to write down on a public calendar every time I left early or every time I came in late. And she wasn't even my clerk, didn't even work in the same area of law as me. And I very quickly left that firm because that was not the environment I wanted to be in. And when I brought it up with the partners, they turned it around on me. So I'm not pleased with that. And a lot of the experiences that I've had working at other law firms, I have taken those lessons with me of things that I don't want to do in my own firm. Anyways, moving on. We are on to day 2 here, going in with the Nomad palette. This Haunted Europe palette I have not given nearly enough love to, and I really can't explain why, other than the fact that I just get overwhelmed by how many palettes I have. So very happy to bring it out and actually get some use out of it. And I had forgotten to do my brows, so here we go doing them. I'm running hot and cold with this Kosas brow gel. Sometimes I like it, and then other times I think it's just, maybe the color is off or it's just too deep or so, I don't know. It's not my favorite. I really do like the NYX glue, the brow glue, better than this Kosas one, but that is neither here nor there. I think I said this was Tuesday. It's actually Wednesday. I had Tuesday off, and on Wednesday, I don't think I had any appointments on the calendar that day. Just some in-office meetings with some of the staff. We're still, if you've been watching these videos, you know I've been griping about our software issues for like weeks now, and it's continuing. We now at least have it installed. Nobody knows how to use it. My clerk, I think, is coming out ahead on that one. But yeah, we're still in a holding pattern, and now we've kind of got like a foot in two worlds where we're still relying on the old software, but it's very limited in terms of what we can do with it at this point because half of the information's being uploaded to the new site. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. So hopefully we can get that sorted out this upcoming week. We made some decisions, my partner and I, so we've got a plan moving forward. We've got one of the tech guys on board with us, so hopefully this should be the last time that I'm bitching and moaning about this bloody software, honestly. But other than that, I had already obviously recovered from the illness that I had on the Monday, was coming into the office. And I think it was this day that one of my associates who had been on holidays sent an email to everybody thanking us for our assistance on one of his matters. So he had a court date this week that I'm showing the makeup for, but he was gone prior to. So I actually did the drafting for the court documents for him. My husband, Barry, is actually that lawyer's dedicated clerk. So he was liaising between the client and myself and my associate. My partner was helping out with some drafting of letters and things that needed to go on as well. And it was just basically a big team effort. And my associate had sent an email thanking everybody for that and passing on that the client was really impressed with basically that team approach and that he never felt, even though his lawyer was in a different country, he never felt like he had just been left in the lurch. And that just means so much to me. It really, I'm just so proud of the group of people that I have working with me, for me, whatever, with me. And I'm really proud of the culture of our firm. We obviously, just Barry and I are the only ones that are actual family, but it feels very much more like a family than it does, like I was describing other firms where I don't view my lawyers as dollar signs. I view them as people, and we're all here and we're only as good as our weakest link. So if we can all support each other, that just helps build our reputation. It gives good service to people that are going through the worst time of their life. Again, if you're new, the firm that I operate, we only do family law. So the vast majority of our work is separation and divorce. We do some like prenups. I am usually the lawyer that will do those. And then I will also do some step-parent adoption work. And some of the other lawyers will do that as well, but we don't get a lot of that. So anyways, going in with Kaleidos Lip Clay, and I love this formula. It's sort of like a moussey texture, but it has really good longevity and it doesn't make your lips feel really dried out. I just yesterday picked up one of the whipped, whatever the hell's from NYX, and it has a very, very similar texture. So I'm actually wearing it right now with my pajama pants and my tank top while I do this voiceover, just testing out to see how it stands up when I do a bunch of talking. And there was my outfit of the day, and that's the last picture of outfits that I took this week. So this was day 3, Thursday, and I had a pretty big court matter this day. So you'll see that I'm wearing a black dress, but actually when we do certain types of court attendances, in this case it's called a motion, we have to wear something called a barrister jacket. So it's just a black sort of like a blazer, if you will. It's shaped a little bit differently, but by all intents and purposes, it's a blazer. And then there's something called tabs. So if you have a long sleeve shirt, it's just ties underneath like the neckline basically. But I just have like a fake shirt, like I have a dickie basically. So it looks like I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, but I was actually just wearing a dress underneath my jacket. And then there's these long white tabs, pieces of material that come out. And for the life of me, I don't really know why we're continuing this antiquated tradition, but it is what it is. So I had to change into those when I got to the office, but I desperately need to get my jacket tailored before I start going back to in-person motions, because I have had it, first of all, since I graduated law school in 2007, but also I had ripped out the back of it because I used to weigh over 300 pounds, and those jackets are super expensive. Like we're talking $600-$700, and I was not going to replace it, but I ripped the back out of it, sewed a bunch of elastic into it, and now it's way too big on me. So I just need to go and get it actually tailored, because I have the feeling that's going to be less expensive than replacing the damned thing. Anyways, you can't tell just from watching this. I was actually really grateful to be doing the makeup, because this was the first time in like a 12-hour, 18-hour period that my mind wasn't racing. Motions are stressful because they're sort of like a mini trial, and there will be, quote unquote, a winner and a loser. There's going to be somebody who's more successful and somebody who's not. And in this case, the motion was regarding vaccines. So there's really no way to compromise. Either the children get vaccinated or they don't, and specifically the COVID vaccine. So I was arguing in favor of the children being vaccinated, and the other side obviously took the different position. And the court doesn't actually have the authority to mandate whether somebody gets vaccinated. So really what it comes down to is decision making and what is in the children's best interest. And it was a really interesting motion to argue, because a lot of times in family law, like we just argue the same things over and over again with just different details. But in this one, there were some elements of like the Evidence Act that I had to bring in, and then the doctrine of judicial notice, and all of this kind of interesting stuff that normally doesn't come up in family law. So I had found a Court of Appeal decision, which is binding on the court that I appear in front of. I've only dipped my toe once into a Court of Appeal matter, but we ended up settling it before it ever went there. So I don't do a lot of Court of Appeal stuff at all. Well, I don't do any. Not to say I wouldn't, but regardless, anyways, the Court of Appeal is a higher court than the one that I appear before, so their decisions are binding, and it was very, very helpful. So I got to walk all through that, and ultimately my client was successful with her motion, and she is able to get her children vaccinated. So I'm very, very happy about that. And then I went in with the shade Modesty from MAC, which is one of my favorite neutral shades across the board, but certainly from the MAC lineup. I also really like their shade Brave. I just think they're both really beautiful and really versatile. So as you can see, I kept the makeup very, very simple because I was just attending at court via Zoom, and I tend not to go for any sort of bold colors when I'm at court. And then that brings us to Friday, and I'm feeling quite happy about that. And so I brought in the new Matte Obsessions palette from Huda Beauty, because specifically I wanted to test out these cream shadows. So the night previous, I had filmed my eye swatch video, but because these are cream, and somebody had left a comment on my Instagram asking whether they crease, I wanted to put them to the test, because just doing an eye swatch video with cream shadows, you'll see it here, they apply really beautifully, and I really liked the eye look that I created this day. However, you will see at the end when I show the close-up of the finished makeup look, I've inserted a picture that I took about, I would say about 3 hours after I applied this. Definitely crease. So it's kind of a bummer. I really wanted these to stand up. And I'm on the fence. I think I said in my eye swatch video that I didn't dislike it enough to return it, but I'm waffling on that. I don't like take pleasure in returning makeup, but also if eventually I'm just going to declutter it without having used it, I may as well return it because I get my money back. And I mean, I don't know. If people return palettes, does the brand take notice? I honestly don't know. I would like to think that they would get some sort of analytic from the retailers that would say, yeah, okay, well, we sold 5,000 of your palettes, but 1,800 of them came back. I would like to think that, but who knows? I think this isn't the first time that Huda's included like a cream shadow, but I'm thinking of the new neutrals. Is that what it was called? The new nudes? I can't remember. I had the palette. I think I decluttered it. Regardless, there was like a cream-ish sort of shadow in there, but it was more designed to be a base rather than a cream shadow. So it had a different texture. It was definitely more on the tacky side than what these are. These really are a cream to powder. Unfortunately, they just don't have the longevity, but the tones are beautiful. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I will decide within the next week, but the powder shadows themselves are beautiful. All right, so this, like I said, was Friday. I didn't have any appointments that day. I used it to get a lot of drafting done. There's just been a lot of stuff just sort of piling up. And a lot of it isn't necessarily big stuff, but there's a lot of little things that needed to be done. So managed to tackle a lot of those. And then we left a little bit early to take our daughter to the dentist. And then we went out for a nice family dinner all together. And there you can see the creasing. Not good. Not good at all. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great week coming up and that you are decent human beings. Bye for now.